All right, here we go. The Ruins of Belegost 1A, the Ruins of the First Age. So it's all the setup. So we get these 5 loot cards. We're going to give them a shuffle, and then we're going to put one of them underneath a card in the staging area called Stalking the Ruins. The other ones will get shuffled into the encounter deck. So we do not know which of these loot cards ended up under Stalking the Ruins, and the goal of the quest, well, part of the goal, is to get a hold of some of this loot. So you can't advance unless you get some of this loot. Because of that loot mechanic, it makes this quest a little difficult because you can have games where you just never find it, and it can be pretty frustrating. So there's a little bit of luck involved there. Let's take a look at Stalking the Ruins. So it's in the staging area, then at the beginning of the quest phase, we're going to add 1 resource there, and then if there's ever 3 resources, we will add Narlug, the dragon. And forced, if we advance to a new quest stage, we remove the resource tokens from this and set Narlug aside out of play. We also have in the staging area an abandoned mine. It's 2 threat. Okay, these other cards get set aside out of play, so we are not going to worry about them. Okay, here is how the discover keyword works. And then here is how the loot mechanic works. Obviously, you can't read it that fast. You'll have to pause it if you want to see. I will explain how all these mechanics work when we have to deal with them during the quest. Alright, 1B, it's 6 quest points. The players cannot advance unless they control at least 1 loot objective, and then forced, at the beginning of the travel phase, if there's no location in play, return the topmost location in the encounter discard pile to the staging area, and then forced, when the stage is defeated, it gives us the direction we need to go based on the loot we have. This is a dungeon crawler quest. Let's take a look at my heroes. We have Galadriel for the first time. She has 9 threat, 4 willpower, 0/0, and 4 hit points. Noldor, noble. Galadriel cannot quest, attack, or defend. Allies you control do not exhaust to commit to the quest the same round they enter play. And then action, exhaust Galadriel to choose a player. That player reduces their threat by 1 and draws a card, limit once per round. Spirit Glorfindel is here, super low threat of 5, 3/3/1/5. Noldor, noble warrior, forced. After Glorfindel exhaust to commit to the quest, raise your threat by 1. And then Arwen, she is 9 threat, 3/1/2/3. Noldor noble, action, discard a card from your hand to give a resource to a Noldor or to Aragorn's resource pool. Limit once per round. So I had an idea of how to take on this quest, and then I looked on RingsDB, and here C-Stan had built pretty much the deck that I was thinking of building with these 3 heroes. So I always get nervous when my brain starts thinking the same as C-Stan's, because I don't know if we've just melded brains for a minute or if I had a flash of genius. But at any rate, this is a strategy that other people have used as well. You basically try to keep your threat below 20 so you don't have to engage anything, but you do need to ramp your willpower up like crazy. And the goal is basically to get through these different quest stages as fast as possible to make it to the end. Even by questing for an insane amount, this is going to be a long quest. It is just a long quest. There's a lot of stages to get through, and we never know what we're going to find as far as loot goes. All right, let's look at the opening hand. So we got 2 Lords of the Eldar. That's good for my end game. There's 1 Elven Light. This isn't that great. I like the 1 Elven Light, but I know I can get a better hand. I need more allies. The Sigil Miner is an ally I need, but I didn't get anything to help me reduce my threat, which is what I need to do. I need to drop my threat before Narlug comes out, and he will be coming out in the quest stage of turn 3. And that's assuming I don't get any card that makes a resource go on Stalking the Ruins faster than the once per round. So I got to get under 20 because that's what his engagement is. So let's see what my mulligan finds me. All right. Oh, the Mirror of Galadriel. That's really nice. Okay, there's a Handmaiden. That's good. Another Ziggy, another ally, another Handmaiden, and Aether Swordsman. So yeah, there you go. There's some allies. 5 of them. Wow. Okay, the Mirror of Galadriel is really good to get in your opening hand because that's going to let me find cards that I need. So let's give everybody a resource, and the card we draw, Elven Light. Isn't that the second time that when playing an Arwen deck, I draw the Elven Light as my first card? All right, let's trigger Galadriel. So she's going to exhaust. I reduced my threat by 1, and I draw a card. So Test of Will, that is excellent. So Galadriel dropped my threat by 1. I was at 23. Now the Handmaiden's going to come into play. She drops my threat by 1. So I am at 21. And then I have enough resources for another Handmaiden, so I think I'll do it. I will just assume I don't need that Test of Will, and I'm going to drop my threat 1 more. So I'm at 20, so I need to somehow get my threat 1 less. Alright, going into the quest phase, we need to add that resource to stalking the ruins, and I'm not going to send Glorfindel because I don't want to raise my threat. I did not find Light of Valinor. So these two handmaidens should not exhaust a quest. I always forget that. Galadriel makes them not exhaust. It's not going to matter, but they just shouldn't. So I'm sending 7, and we get... Oh, this is great. So this is the Blue Mountain Goblin. He surges if you control loot. Well, I don't control loot, so he's just one threat, and he's going to stay up there for the rest of his life. I am never getting him out of the staging area. So we made some progress. Now we will travel to the abandoned mine.
A mine!
So it has Discover 2, and then Forced. When resolving the Discover keyword, we get to look at 1 additional card per player. So we get to look at 3 cards. So what you do is you look at them. Hey, we actually got loot, so that's really good. So when you find loot, you put it underneath the location that you just traveled to. So you discovered loot at that location. And then if any of the other cards have the hazard keyword, you pick one at random and reveal it. So we didn't have any hazards, so that was nice. So that was perfect. That usually doesn't happen. Just so you know, if you've never played this before, it's very likely you will not find loot, but I'm very glad I did. In the next round, we draw the Silver Harp, which is amazing because that lets you pull back a card that gets discarded from your hand, and that works with the Mirror of Galadriel. So that costs 1. It goes on Galadriel, and you exhaust it to look at the top 10 cards of your deck. You get to pick 1, add it to your hand, and then you have to discard a random card from your hand. But the Silver Harp will pull that card right back. So that's a nice little engine I got going. Now I got to decide which card I want. There is a Galadriel's Greeting that'll let me drop my threat by 6. I think that's the best choice. So let's grab that one. And then you shuffle your deck. So the Galadriel's Greeting is now in my hand. Then I'm going to trigger the Silver Harp. So I'm not going to discard a card because whatever it was, I'll just pull it right back. Then I am going to discard the Sailor of Loon to Arwen's effect and give me 1 resource. And then I start the quest phase, so I add the resource to Stalking the Ruins, and I realize I haven't triggered Galadriel yet. So let's drop my threat by 1 and draw a card. And it's Elrond's Council. If I had known I was going to draw that, I would have picked a different card. So Elrond's Council is going to let me drop my threat. Alright, so once again, I think I will send the Handmaidens. And that's it. So I don't need to make progress. Oh, crap. So if you ever reveal a loot, you just discard it. That's what makes it hard. So now that's in the discard pile. And then you have to reveal an additional card, and we get the Nameless Cave Dweller. It has X for its stats, where X is 1 more than the Discover value. So that will be a 3. So we added 3 threat, and we quested for 4. So we make no progress. But I am going to trigger Elrond's Council and increase the willpower of one of the handmaidens by 1 and drop my threat by 3. So now I am under 20, so that is basically goal number 1. If you fail that goal, you can still win, but it's, you need to get under 20 as fast as possible. So I do make 1 progress. I'm not going to engage anything, and we are going to go into the next round. The next step in my plan to win is I need to build up a Noldor army, and then I need to build up a bunch of resources. Alright, next round I draw another Elrond's Council. Dang, I really wish I had grabbed a different card. Alright, speaking of grabbing a different card, let's trigger the Mirror again, so get used to seeing me do this. Top 10 cards, almost got it, 9. And let's see, I'm looking for, I think I'd like a Stargazer. Ooh, Light of Valinor is also something I would like to get, but I don't really need it right now. I'm questing for okay. There is a Stargazer in my top 10, so I will grab it, and then I can get the Stargazer Ziggy combo going, and that will definitely help me get the engine that I need to generate resources. The Silver Harp pulls back the card I would have discarded, so you're going to see that every time. That's me going, oh yeah, I shouldn't have exhausted those handmaidens. Okay, Stargazer lets me look at the top 5 cards. Let's see what we get. And to be honest, I don't care what I'm discarding to Ziggy because I have Will of the West in this deck, so most of these cards that I discard are going to get shuffled right back into the deck for the mid-game. I just want to get the Aether Swordsmans in play. I need all 3 of them because, like I said, you need massive willpower. So after arranging my cards, I will trigger Galadriel, dropping my threat by 1, and I draw her ring. Don't know if I'll ever put it into play, but now I have it. So with Galadriel, I can keep my threat under 20 for the rest of the game because I can just always keep dropping it down and stay right where I am without any threat reduction other than her. Okay, I put in Ziggy, so I'm going to quest of him first because he doesn't exhaust a quest, so he's committed to the quest even though he's ready. Currently sending 8. We're up against, and I almost forgot, a lot more than 4 because Narlog comes into play once we have 3 resources on stalking the ruins. So let's take a look at him. 20 engagement, that's why we got to stay under 20. His threat is equal to the number of resources on stalking the ruins. 7 attack, 5 defense, 20 hit points. He's immune, he can't take damage. And then forced, when he makes an attack, I also have to deal damage among my characters equal to the resources on stalking the ruins. That's why you don't want him to attack. Even with a dedicated defender deck, it's very hard to keep taking all these attacks in the early game. So I am going to send a little more willpower. Glorfindel raised my threat. And yes, once again, we get another blue mountain goblin. I still don't have any loot. So 2 of those guys can stay up in staging. That's really good to trap those guys up there. So I ended up making 3 progress. So I make 1 on the quest. And then I do clear the active location. So I get the Book of Owl's Children. So I have to grab it. When you have loot unattached, you immediately grab it. You don't have to exhaust or anything. And then action, I can exhaust it to draw a card. So I now have a loot objective, and I am 1 progress away from advancing the quest. And I would like to sit here for just a minute and build up my board state. We're going to trigger Ziggy and say 2, so you discard the top 2 cards of your deck. And then one of them costs 2, so I get to add a resource to somebody. And then I'll trigger the book and draw the next card. So that book is really good. It's a really good one to have. And we draw Gandalf. So now we are in the travel phase, so I have no location, so I pulled that one out of the discard pile. It was the topmost location. And then it has Discover 3, and we find more loot. This has never happened. Do not expect it to get this lucky. And no hazards. So wow, 2 Discover keywords, no hazards, and 2 loot. That doesn't normally happen, but guys, I am so glad it did, because this quest is long, even if you're lucky like I'm getting. So I'm just glad that the video isn't going to be 2 hours long. And we found the keys, which is really the best one to find right now. Okay, so get used to this. In the refresh action window after everyone readies, I will always trigger Stargazer to see what my next 5 cards are, so I can figure out what Ziggy is going to be discarding off my deck. So let's get these straightened out. All right, top 5 are arranged. So I draw one. It's Ether Swordsman, my first of 3. And then I'm going to say 2. One of these cards is going to cost 2, so I get 1 resource. And then I don't like what the next card would have been, so I'm not going to trigger the book or Galadriel yet. Let's use the mirror and look at the top 10. I would like to find the Light of Valinor, to be honest. Okay, there's Fair and Perilous, another endgame card. There's my Light of Valinor. And yep, okay, that's what I'm going to grab. So we give him a shuffle, and Silver Harp lets me keep whatever card I would have discarded. So Light of Valinor, of course, will go on Glorfindel, so he no longer exhausts the quest. We will trigger the book and draw a card. So let's see what we got. And we have, oh, the Traveler. Okay, I think that's what I would have drawn if I hadn't triggered the mirror. So he's fine to come in right now. So he costs 1 because I'm in secrecy, and lets me take a peek. And we get, for the upcoming card, the Orc of Erin Lewin. That's a girl orc, isn't it? That's a female orc. All right, kind of cool. She's going to make an attack, though, when she enters play. Since I know what I'm questing against, I spend a lot of time trying to figure out exactly how much willpower I should send. I'm going to be up against 11 threats, so I need to decide if I want to send enough willpower to clear this stage or not. So I was trying to see if I should play Nenya. I decide not to, so I exhaust Galadriel, drop my threat, and I draw another copy of the mirror, which I will discard to Arwen to gain a resource. So I have 4 resources. I'll spend 2 of them to put in 1 copy of the Ether Swordsman. I have a second one in hand. I'm going to hold on to that Test of Will, because I'm thinking I might cancel this. I think I'm going to engage one of these enemies in the combat phase. So once I decide, I'm going to send a total of 14 against 11. So she gets revealed. She's going to make an immediate attack. I'm saying she. It's an orc, and I'm saying she. That's happening. This is life. Okay, so I do decide to just cancel it. So I don't want to deal with that attack. The shadows are kind of nasty, and I don't want to have to deal with a shadow. So let's just clear that active location. We get the keys, and it says exhaust the keys to generate a resource. So that's awesome. So let's do that right now. In the travel phase, I once again have to pull that mine out of the discard pile. And I was going to travel there, but I decide not to because I think I'll engage this cave dweller thing while it only has stats of 1. I'd like to get that out of the staging area. It can get pretty nasty if you get multiple copies and they're all getting these huge boosts. So Ether Swordsman will defend because he didn't have to exhaust. And this says assign damage among my characters where the damage is equal to the number of attachments I control. I can also discard the highest cost attachment I control to cancel that shadow. See what I mean? These shadows. Nasty. I'm just going to take the damage. I don't want to discard my harp. So I can take 5 damage. I don't plan on much attack. There's not much direct damage if I'm not getting attacked by the dragon. So I survived that attack. Glorfindel swinging for 3, and that's all I got because the Traveler didn't exhaust to quest because he came in this round, but he doesn't have any attack. So let's go into the refresh phase and gaze at some stars. My primary goal is just to keep building up my army of allies, and I would like the Ziggy to discard 2 cards that cost the same. So let's take a look at these cards and see if I can figure that out. So I think I got that sorted the way I want. Everyone's going to collect a resource. I'm going to draw the card I put on top of my deck, which is another Traveler. Ziggy will say 1. I discard 2 cards that cost 1. One of them is Elven Light, which is, of course, the perfect card to discard. So I get 2 resources there. And then I'm going to get a resource from the keys. And then I'm going to draw a card with the book. Got quite the engine going here. There's Gandalf, so I have 2 copies of him. And then now we are going to trigger the mirror, and let's look at the top 10. So the amount of card draw and resource gen I have going is equal to any lore deck or leadership deck right now. This is pretty incredible. So let's look at the top 10. Not many allies in the top 10. I would like to draw one of those jewelers. Okay, I'm going to put Lords of the Eldar in my hand. That's a card I need to hold on to. And the harp, of course, lets me keep any card I would have discarded. I'm going to discard that Lords of the Eldar to Arwen's ability, and then I'm going to put Gandalf in play so he can kill that she-orc up in staging. That Lords of the Eldar can be played from the discard pile, gives a +1 stat boost to the end of the round to all your Noldor characters. I'm going to need it at the end game, which will be after I've probably shuffled in my discard pile into my deck. But with all this card draw I have and the amount of cards I'm planning on getting out of my deck and onto the table, I'll be able to find that Lords of the Eldar plus my second copy for the end game. I'm not worried. So it's in my discard pile right now as a panic button if I need it for some reason. Okay, let's play the Traveler for 1, and he's going to let me take a peek at the top card. If it's a location, I could discard it. Okay, the card we get is a Treachery, the Spawn of Thangorodrim. Yikes. Okay, when revealed, if Narlong is in play, he's going to make an attack against me. If he's not in play, you'd have to place a resource on Stalking the Ruins. And then if there was 3 resources on Stalking the Ruins, you would add Narlong to the staging area. Okay, we're getting attacked by a giant dragon, but I have Gandalf in play, so that worked out really well. We're not done with planning yet. Noldor decks take a lot of planning. Gladriel triggers, and I draw one of the record attachments, so that lets me replay an event from my discard pile as an action. Doesn't work with Test of Will, because it's an action. All right, Aether Swordsman coming in, so they're both questing for 3. Let's figure out my willpower. And I am sending 12 by exhausting nobody. Gandalf, the Swordsman, and the Traveler all don't exhaust because they entered play this round, and neither does Glorfindel. All right, so let's get attack. So remember, when he attacks, I have to deal out damage equal to the resources on Stalking the Ruins. So I have to do that. But Gandalf will take this attack, so I would have dealt 3 damage to him, because there's no shadows that say deal a damage to the defending character. So he would have taken 3 of the damage from Stalking the Ruins, and my Travelers each have 2 hit points, so they'll each take a damage. And then Gandalf's going to die from the attack, which had no shadow. So we easily survived our first attack from Narlug. By losing Gandalf, we also lose 4 willpower, but I'm going to play Elrond's Counsel now and reduce my threat by 3 and get that 1 willpower back. So we quested for exactly even, which is great because I wasn't ready to advance. And now we're going to get attached by this cave dweller thing. He's still only attacking for 1 because I'm not going to travel. Arwen can defend. She has 2 defense. The shadow is after this attack, the attacking enemy engages the next player and makes an attack. I don't have to worry about that. Since I have all these characters ready, I do have enough to kill this guy, and now we're ready to go into the refresh phase. And I should be able to advance to the next stage this round. All right, Stargazer takes a peek. Top 5 cards. Glad to see that Test of Will, and okay, I have 2 2-cost cards that I don't need, so I will be able to arrange the cards the way I would like. Alright, let's do this. I should be at a point where I can start flying through these quest stages. So I draw a Test of Will. Ziggy is going to say 2. Both of these cards are going to cost 2. There we go. So that's 2 more resources going on somebody. And now I'm going to trigger the keys and get another resource. I'm going to trigger the book and draw a card. The card I draw is another Gandalf. And then I will trigger the mirror, and we get to look at the top 10, and we're going to grab a card out of there. Still looking for a lot of allies, but I have a plan to draw a whole bunch of cards this round. So there's more of those jewelers. I don't want to draw it out of there. What card am I looking for here? I think I'll grab the Unexpected Courage. I don't even know who to put it on. It works well on Gladriel if you put Nenya on her, because then you can use her and her ring. Alright, let's keep planning, because it's an Noldor deck, so your planning phases take forever. You're welcome, fellow players at the table. There's my hand. No allies to get into play, so now I'm going to draw a random card, so let's see what that is, and it's my other Lords of the Eldar. Okay, I'm going to hold on to that one because I will be playing Will of the West shortly. And then now let's pull back these Elven Lights and draw some cards. So I had 2 Elven Lights in my discard pile, so I'm going to spend a resource for both and draw 2 cards. There we go, 2 allies. So the Elven Jeweler's perfect because I have 2 Elven Lights in hand, so you put her in play by discarding 2 cards. So there we go, she's now in play. And then I can draw those Elven Lights right back because I have all these resources. So I get a Stargazer and a Fair and Perilous. That's going to help against a dragon. Alrighty, I think I'll actually put the Stargazer into play after discarding a card to Arwen, because it doesn't hurt to be able to look at my next 5 cards right now, and I can just plan on having a chump blocker. I don't need 2 in play, but I have the resources and I have her in hand. So let's arrange these cards because I have Emery, and Emery lets you put her in play by discarding 3 cards, and as long as none of them are leadership, lore, or tactics, she gets to stay in play. So I'm just going to arrange my next 3 cards as 3 cards I would like Emery to discard. So she comes into play. You discard the top 3 cards. As long as they're all spirit or neutral, she gets to stay in play. So she's nice. She has 2 defense and 2 hit points. So let's get rid of those 3 cards. I don't need those. And then, are we done? Is that it? No. I'm going to spend a resource, pull back Elven Light, and I get my Will of the West. So that's going to let me shuffle my discard pile back into my deck, which I plan on doing very soon. Alright, it's time to advance. This is why I'm not a fan of this quest. I'm really set up and ready to go to the end stage at this point, but I need to now go through a whole bunch of stages to get to the dragon. So after doing a bunch of math, I'm going to end up sending 16 against 10, and the card we reveal is a Covered Pit. So we each have to discard an ally we control. Well, that's obviously no problem. That card does have a fond memory for me, though. Not fond, but at my first Gen Con, this was the quest that was at Gen Con, and we revealed that on turn 1 in a 4-player game, and we basically lost because of it, because we all lost any chump blockers we had, and it was terrible. Okay, because we control the keys, we actually get to advance to 2C, which is really amazing. We get to skip a quest stage. Okay, so deeper into the past, we're going to shuffle the Lurker of the Depths and the encounter discard pile back into the encounter deck, and then we're going to discard cards until we get a location and add that location to the staging area. So the Lurker of the Depths is terrible. If we hadn't been able to skip that stage, we would be engaged with it. Right now, it stays in the staging area and attacks everybody and can only take 4 damage around. Really nasty. Okay, so that's getting shuffled in. Hopefully we never see that. Okay, so our encounter deck is back up to its full capacity, and we discard cards until we get a location. Okay, so we get another one of these abandoned mines, so no problem. Let's look at what side. 2D, 9 quest points. The players cannot advance unless we control 2 loot objectives, and we have 3 resources on the stage. Forest, after the active location is explored, place a resource here, and then the second forest tells us where to go when we complete the stage. Stalking the Ruins says if we ever advance to a new stage, we remove all the tokens from it, and Narlog goes back out of play. So that's nice, a lot of threat out of staging. And then let's travel to one of these abandoned mines, so it's going to have a Discover 3. So we're going to look at the top 3 cards. All right, we get a location, one of those blue mountain goblins, and that spawn of, I can't pronounce that word again. So no hazards and no loot, so we are just going to advance to the refresh phase. And yeah, I mean, look how much time is left in this video, and we've only completed 1 stage. So it's a little bit of a drag, but it's fun to beat because it's a hard one, so beating it does feel good. All right, Stargazer takes a peek, and we're going to arrange the cards. Okay, here we go. So we're going to get our resources. We are going to draw a card, and that card is an Elven Jeweler. We are going to trigger Galadriel, drop our threat by 1, and draw another card. It's our 3rd Aether Swordsman. We're going to draw a card with the book. It's a Handmaiden. We are going to get a resource from the keys. We are going to exhaust Ziggy and say 1. One of the cards cost 1. It's an Elven Light. The other one's a record. I don't need that. So we get 1 resource. That'll go on Arwen. We are now going to spend a resource, pull back Elven Light. The card we pull back is another Fair and Perilous. That's excellent. Okay, time to start playing some cards, I think. So we are going to play Will of the West, and we are going to shuffle in all of my discard pile into my deck. So after I do that, that's when I'll be triggering the mirror and see if I can pull back some of the allies I discarded earlier in the game. I have never lost against this quest with this deck. This deck has a 100% win ratio against it. And you'll see why, because once we get to this point, I don't think there's anything that could beat me. So I'm going to pull Lindir out of here, and then the Silver Harp will keep me from discarding anything. This is my current hand. That's a lot of cards for a spirit deck. So yeah, I can definitely spam the board right now. So first, we're going to play a Jeweler. I got to discard 2 cards to do that. I will be discarding 2 Elven Lights so she can come into play. I will discard my 3rd Elven Light so I can generate a resource. Let's play my 3rd Handmaiden, and we will drop my threat by 1. Let's use the Stargazer and peek at the top 5. Any Noldor allies I can find, I'm going to want to get into play. Okay, we got 1 Noldor ally and a bunch of cards that cost 1, so that works perfect. Now we're going to grab an Elven Light. We're going to draw our top card, which is the Jeweler. We're going to discard 2, so I will discard an Elven Light and Lords of the Eldar, 2 cards I want in my discard pile. And then we send characters on the quest. Everybody who came in this round doesn't exhaust, and we are going to send a total of 18 willpower on the quest. That's nice, but I can't clear this quest stage until I put 3 resources on it, and I got to clear 3 locations. And we get a secret chamber, which is really nice. It's 3 threat, but when you resolve the discover keyword, you're allowed to try to pull loot out of the discard pile if possible. So that's nice. That's a way to find loot. We are going to place 8 out of 9 progress, and then we place 1 resource on this quest stage, 2 to go, and let's travel to another abandoned mine. So we don't want to travel to that other location unless we have loot in the discard pile that we can maybe grab. Okay, so we need to see if any of these are hazards. There are 2 hazards and no loot. That's more like it. That's the treasure hunting I'm used to. So let's pick one at random. So I'm going to go odd, even, and we're going to roll a die, and it's just off screen. Here we go, itty bitty. Okay, there it is. It is odd. So the first one is this hazard. It's another covered pit. I got to discard another ally from play. No big deal. So I'll get rid of one of these travelers. I got to keep my Noldor allies as much as possible. And I don't want to do combat, so we are just going to go right into the refresh phase. I used one of the Stargazers to look before the refresh phase, so I knew what was coming. So I'm going to draw that greeting. I'm going to say 1 with Ziggy. And they both cost 1, so there's more resources. Right now what I'm trying to do is just get every single Noldor ally I can in play, and then building up a big wealth of resources so I can pay for Lords of the Eldar and Fair and Perilous. And there's a Lords of the Eldar, so let's rearrange with Stargazer, and we're going to draw a bunch of cards. Alright, so we'll do the book, the keys, Galadriel, so we drop our threat. We're going to draw 2 cards, and we're going to gain a resource. So let's see the 2 cards I put on top. There we go. Lords of the Eldar and a Sailor of Loon. Sailor of Loon gets +1 willpower if your top card in your discard pile is an event, and it can't be damaged while committed to the quest. Alright, let's use the mirror, and we're almost through the deck a second time. So yeah, this deck is pretty crazy, and every card in your deck you probably get to play at least once. Okay, so as you can see, I'm running out of allies. Let's grab another Sailor of Loon. And then we give the deck a shuffle, and let's put some more allies into play. We'll trigger Arwen's ability by discarding an Elven Light. So we got tons of resources. And now we can spam the board of some allies. So first, Lindir, I'll never trigger his ability, which is if you have less than 3 cards, you draw up to 3 cards in your hand when he enters play. That'll never happen. So he's coming in. He's a nice Noldor ally. Then we're going to play 2 Sailor of Loons. So like I said, as long as your top card of your discard pile is an event, they get a willpower boost, and then they can't be damaged while committed to the quest. So let's pay for those. Our top card is an event. We have 1 resource left in case we need a test of will, and everybody that entered play this round does not exhaust a quest, so that is quite a few willpowers just right there. And yeah, so we just need to clear this active location and place 1 progress, and then we have to go to another location. So Stalking the Ruins gets 2. I am up against 5. I've sent 15. We have to discard the blue mountain gem. That's okay, because I can pull it back with that. Oh, crap. Seriously? Okay, so the Lurker of the Depths does get revealed. Man. Okay, so now we have to deal with that. But we did clear the location, and we made our progress. So we're going to travel to the secret chamber, and I'm supposed to raise my threat by 2. And I forget to do this, but it obviously doesn't matter because my threat is 14. All right, discover 3. If we don't find a loot, we can get 1 out of the discard pile. So let's see. Okay, we did find a loot. Ooh, and it's the lamp. So that's a good one. The torch or whatever it's called. Not a hazard, not a hazard. Okay, that's fine. Okay, the lurker of the depths is going to attack us. One of my stargazers will jump in front of it. I have to exhaust a character I control. So the lurker attacks you every round, and it can't leave the staging area, and it only can take 4 damage a round. So as long as I can swing for 6, which obviously is not a problem, I can deal my 4 damage, and it's going to take 3 rounds to kill this thing. So that's going to be attacking me for the next 2 turns. But if I clear that location this next turn, which there's no reason why I shouldn't, we should be able to advance to the next stage. So let's go. Gazing up at the stars, we're going to look at our top 5 cards. Man, how many times have we done this game? All right. Oh, good. There's another ally. That's all I want right now. Just want my allies. I don't need another harp. I don't need those record attachments. That's just for an early game if I need a second Elrond's Council to drop my threat and keep it under 20. Late game, really don't need it. Okay, got my cards arranged the way I want. Everybody's going to get a resource. And we get to do a whole new planning phase with a Test of Will being the card that is drawn. So Galadriel drops my threat. I'm going to draw a card. It's the 3rd Sailor of Loon. Ziggy's going to say 1. One of these cards is going to cost 1. There we go. So I get 1 more resource. All right, let's get a resource from the keys, and then we are going to use the mirror and look at the top 10 cards, which I think is all of them. I think I only have 10 cards left in the deck. So yeah, almost through the deck a second time. Bunch of Elrond's Councils that I don't need. I might as well grab this Traveler. My Silver Harp will keep me from discarding it. And let's get some more allies into play. So here comes the Traveler. He only costs 1. You get to look at the top card. And it's Doomed 1. Add 1 to the threat in the staging area for every character the first player controls. Huh. Well, let's add more characters. Okay, here comes a Sailor of Loon, number 3. So I got all 3 of them, all 3 Jewelers, all 3 Handmaidens. Can I get all 3 Aether Swordsmen? Maybe. Let's discard the Lords of the Eldar. And then I got another resource. Let's draw a card. It's a Will of the West. Won't be using that. And then, yeah, here comes the 3rd Aether Swordsman. So they're each questing for 4. So there is my Tower of Willpower. And I got Noldor allies for days. I can't imagine this deck having a better board state. So we are absolutely set up. We're going to be adding Narlog back to the staging area because we're getting our 3rd Stalking the Ruins resource. And now let's do some math. I might not need to cancel this because I'm actually up against 29. So as long as I can make a couple progress, I'll be fine. So let's figure it out. I feel like this is a Jeff Foxworthy joke. If you reveal a treachery that adds 20 threat and you still make progress, you might be running a Noldor deck. Alright, so Doomed 1 puts me at 15 whopping threat. I have sent 31 against 29, and I didn't even exhaust half my characters, it looks like. And I get the Dwarven Torch, so I can exhaust it to choose a non-unique enemy, and that enemy gets -1 attack and defense. So I now have 3 loot objectives, and more importantly, I've cleared 3 locations while at this stage, so I can finally advance to the next one. Come on, let's go! Alright, so according to this, if I have the book, I get to advance to 3E, the Mines of Belegost. I got to shuffle in the discard pile and then reveal an encounter card. So that's nice. I got to skip some quest stages because I had the book. So let's now shuffle in the encounter discard pile. Let's remove Stalking the Ruins and Narlog, and let's reveal a card. All right, and the card I'm going to reveal is another one of those secret chambers. Okay, well that's nice if you have a discard pile. Okay, 3F. During the travel phase, players must travel to a location if able. It takes 6 progress to clear it, and then forced after resolving the Discover keyword. If no hazard card was revealed by that effect, we're going to reveal the top card of the encounter deck, and then of course the final forced tells us where to go. All right, let's go to the secret chamber. So it has a Discover value of 3, and to travel there we got to raise our threat by 2. I remember this time. All right, so Discover 3, let's take a look. I double check the wording on the quest card. Lots to keep track of in this quest. All right, so we get a hazard. They're both trolls. And then the Sunken Treasury. There's no loot in my discard pile. So one of these hazards comes into play. It's the troll, and he gets -10 engagement for every loot we control. So we currently control 3. So he's a 20 as well. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so the Lurker is going to attack me again. The Traveler is going to die. And it's once again exhaust a character I control. Not a problem. I just need to swing for 6. I don't even exhaust anybody to do it. Obviously, I have 6 attack between Glorfindel and all of these ready jewelers. So we're going to do 4 more damage to the Lurker, and we are going to go into the refresh phase. Our wonderful Stargazer is almost out of work because we almost don't have 5 cards left in our deck. There's some Elrond's Councils, and yeah, I guess another Stargazer. I don't really need it. So let's just arrange the cards like that. And let's go into planning. We're going to do this fast. I think by now you guys get how this works. So draw an Elrond's Council. Let's drop our threat and draw a card, another Elrond's Council. Let's trigger Ziggy, and we are going to say 2. Both of the cards discarded cost 2, so I get 2 resources on somebody. Okay, so now we are going to trigger both of the objectives. So we're going to draw a card, and we're going to gain a resource. I'm going to discard a card to Arwen. I'm going to gain another resource. And then we're going to play Gandalf. So let's get Gandalf into play. He can deal 4 damage to that Lurker, and we'll just get rid of that. So that's a good use of his ability. Definitely didn't need cards. Definitely didn't need to drop my threat. So this goes into the victory display. Don't need to see him anymore. Thank you very much, Gandalf. And then all we got to do is make the progress to advance to the next stage. So let's just send enough on the quest to get the heck out of this one. This quest is putting the crawl in Dungeon Crawler, I think. All right, dropping my threat by 6. So that feels pretty good. And now we are going to be sending characters on the quest. Gandalf doesn't exhaust, and let's just make sure we cover the threat. All right, the final total is 21 against 6. The card we reveal, something from Indiana Jones. Concealed Spikes. When revealed, each player assigns X damage among characters. X is 1 more than the discovery value. Alrighty, I think I'll just kill off Gandalf. Why not? I'm going to lose his 4 willpower, but that doesn't matter. So I make plenty of progress, enough to clear the active location, and enough to put the 6 progress on the quest. So we are definitely good there, and we get to advance to the next quest stage. If I had the blue gem, I would be able to go to the final stage, but I don't, so I have to go to 3A. All right. 3A, here we go. The Servants of Morgoth. When revealed, we gotta shuffle the discard pile back in and then reveal a card. Okay, and the card we are revealing is a Sunken Treasury. That's fine. Let's look at side 3B. 6 quest points. The first hazard card revealed each round is surged. During the travel phase, we have to travel to a location, and when it's defeated, if we have the torch, we get to go to 4A. Okay, awesome. We have the torch. So once we defeat this, we get to go to the final quest stage. Let's go to the Sunken Treasury, discover 3. We need to discard a card at random. I really don't care what I discard, because if it's an event that I want to play, I have the records that I can put into play and pull that event back out. And it's Will of the West, so who cares? Okay, we now need to do the discover keyword. If we get a hazard, we are going to have to surge it, because this says the first hazard revealed surges, and this counts as revealing because it says you revealed the hazard. But we don't get a hazard, we don't get a loot, and so now we will go into the next round. No more stargazing because we don't have enough cards in our deck to make that worthwhile. All right, here we go. We are drawing the last cards of my deck, so we get an Elrond's Council, and then of course we will trigger the keys in the book, and we will draw my second to last card, which is one of the maps, record attachment, and then Galadriel will drop my threat down. I'm at 11. And we get another Ziggy. Let's put him into play. Get another body on the table because we don't have enough. We obviously need more characters in play. So Ziggies are doing nothing anymore except for questing or attacking for 1 or maybe chumping. And my threat is 11. I'd like to get it under 10 at this point because I'm worrying about those trolls up in staging. So let's play a map. So this will let me play an event out of my discard pile, and then you put that event on the bottom of your deck, which would put it on my top of my deck as well. And that just will let me play another Elrond's Council, so I can get my threat under 10, because that troll in staging gets minus 10 engagement for every loot I have, and I'll very likely end up with 4 pieces of loot, which is really good. All right, so that one Ziggy doesn't exhaust a quest, and I'm going to send enough to make sure I clear this active and put the progress I need on the quest. So let's make sure we get this right. We're going to go 20 against 6, and then Elrond's Council is going to make it 21 against 6, and my threat is now 8, which is pretty awesome. You could easily drop down to 0 threat with this deck. And we get this is a new one, Darkened Tunnel, 3 threat. If we cancel a card while it's in staging, we have to discard the top card of the deck. If that was a hazard, we need to reveal it. Those are the perfect type of locations that you forget what they're doing while they're sitting up there and you totally miss it. Okay, so obviously we made our 6 progress. We do control the torch, so we get to go to 4A, the Beast of Belegost. We are going to add Narlug and Narlug's lair to the staging area, and we're going to shuffle the Sword of Belegost and the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. So let's do that. We have Narlug's lair. It's 4 threat, 6 progress, underground, discover 5, and it's immune, and then forced when Narlug's lair is explored, add the loot objective from underneath Stalking the Ruins to the staging area, and then to travel there we need to add 1 resource to Stalking the Ruins per player. We're also going to be adding Narlug to the staging area, and then finally the sword and the discard pile get shuffled into the encounter deck. Okay, 4B of the Beast of Belegost. While Narlug's lair is in the victory display, Narlug loses, cannot take damage. Forced, after Narlug attacks, if it was dealt a shadow card with no shadow effect, it engages the next player, then it makes an immediate attack. Do not deal it a shadow card for that attack. When Narlug is defeated, we're going to win the game. So in multiplayer, that's a lot of direct damage you're dealing out, because every time Narlug attacks, you deal out direct damage equal to the resources on Stalking the Ruins. And it's much easier to get resources on Stalking the Ruins, because to travel there, place X resources on Narlug, X is the number of players in the game. So we're going to travel to the lair, and we got to place 1 resource on Stalking the Ruins, and it's discover 5. So let's see what we get. Okay, there's a hazard. There's a hazard. That's not a hazard. That's not a hazard. There's a hazard. Okay, I think I forget that location was a hazard, so sorry about that. So I just take these 2 and randomly pick one. So odds and evens again. So we got an odd. So we ended up with the, when revealed, each player assigns X damage among characters he controls. X is the discover value. Ew, God, I think that was the worst one. I wish I would have remembered that location was a hazard, would have increased my odds of not getting it. But, I mean, is it really anything to worry about? I got to do 6 damage, 1 more than the discover value. And I have lots of characters of 2 hit points. So there's a bunch of damage on the table. Let's put 1 resource on Stalking the Ruins, and then we'll go into what is hopefully the final round of this game. So what I want to do here is get as many resources as possible and leave as many Noldor characters ready as possible. So the keys will get us 1 resource. I can discard a card to Arwen to get another resource. So let's discard Gandalf. So we have 10 resources to spend, which is really great. After doing some math, I need to send at least 16 willpower plus whatever the threat is that's going to be revealed. So I'd like to send 20. So to help with that, let's put Nenya into play. So it attaches to Galadriel. She gains the lore icon. Quest action, exhaust Nenya and Galadriel to add her willpower to another character's willpower until the end of the phase. So this is only for the quest phase that this actually has any benefit. So we're going to be doing that because I don't have any reason to drop my threat or draw a card with her. We're going to trigger Nenya. I should be exhausting Galadriel as well and adding 4 willpower to Glorfindel. And we're going to send the Aether Swordsman. So they're each questing for 4. So there's 12 more. So that's 7 plus 12 is 19. So I need basically 1 more willpower. So I'm going to trigger the map. So you discard it. You play an event out of your discard pile. So I'll play Elrond's Council. And you put that event on the bottom of your deck. So there it is. That is the bottom of my deck, which it's my whole deck. And we get to drop our threat by 3, getting us under 10. And we're now questing for 20. So let's see what we reveal. And oh, okay. It is the card that would give the most threat possible. So it's 1 more than the discover value. So that is a 6. So I have not quested for enough. I need to make 2 more willpower, but no problem. I was planning on playing 2 copies of this card anyway. So we're going to play 2 copies of Lords of the Eldar. Costs 3. You can only play it from your discard pile. And then it gets put on the bottom of your deck. And it gives +1 to all Noldor stats until the end of the round. So now all my Noldor characters get +2 to their stats. And because I sent 2 Noldor characters on the quest, in a way, I sent Galadriel's willpower on a quest, which just got boosted. So we're going to add 4 willpower, which is going to give us enough to clear Narlug's lair. So there we go. Narlug's lair has been cleared. So now Narlug no longer has the text cannot take damage. So now we can engage Narlug and try to kill him. But first we get this card. What is it? It's the map of Arid Lewin, so you can exhaust it to reduce the threat of something in the staging area by 2. Okay, so we would have to engage that troll if our threat was 10 or higher, but it isn't, so we're fine. Let's engage Gnarlug. Gnarlug is going to be attacking for 7, so we're going to chump it with one of the miners. It just seems thematically accurate to have a dwarf defending this. And it says, assign X damage among characters you control. X is the number of attachments you control, or I can discard my highest cost attachment. Fine, I'll just discard the Silver Harp. So the Silver Harp goes away. So does the miner. And then we need to muster up 25 attack, which is not going to be a problem. I'm curious to see how much attack these Noldor can do on this final round because they haven't done any combat all game. So let's play Fair and Perilous. So I have 2 copies. So what you do is you choose a Noldor character, add the willpower of that character to that character's attack. So Glorfindel has 5 willpower. Remember, Nenya is no longer boosting him, but he has Lords of the Eldar boosting his willpower twice. So he has 5 willpower getting added to his 5 attack because Lords of the Eldar also boosted his attack by 2. So 5 plus 5 plus 5, he alone is attacking for 15. And then every single Noldor character has plus 2 attack thanks to those Lords of the Eldar. So that's why I left as many Noldor characters up as I could. So now I'm just going through the math, counting by 2s and 3s, trying to get the grand total. I'm hoping for 50. That was kind of my goal. Can I attack for 50 attack here at the end of the game? And I think I'm just going to be a little short. You know what? I really thought I was going to get to 50, but I'm just under. I am at, you can't even see it. You can't see it. Tilt the camera, Chad. Move the camera. You can't see. There it is. All right, it is 48. I ended up attacking for 48 at the end. Almost double what I needed, but we do kill the dragon. We do escape the Ruins of Belegost. That's a victory. What's my runtime here? Around 45 minutes? That's not bad. It was over 70 minutes before I started editing and speeding up certain parts of the game. It's a long quest, but man, victory feels good when you get it. So if you're going full combat in solo, it's a tough one. You need somebody who can just take lots of damage over and over again. There's some good glowing builds for that. But having just a ton of willpower and trying to keep your threat super low so you can just quest through all these stages is a great way to handle this quest. And I hope you enjoyed this one. Murder at the Prancing Pony is next. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.